I want to say a few words about Pacific salmon, because salmon really are the lifeblood of our region's cultural connections to the land and water. And salmon, for several decades now throughout the Pacific Northwest, have been on an unfortunate march towards extinction. We've got a number of salmon runs throughout the Northwest that are gone. And the few remaining areas that we still have wild, healthy populations truly are refugia for salmon, so that they can eventually recover to the numbers that were close to what they were historically, and also so that they can weather the coming climate storm. Now, here in our region, we're working both in the Rogue and the Klamath River systems, and they're an interesting contrast of some of the threats and some of the solutions to salmon populations. For instance, on the Rogue River in southern Oregon, we've got some pretty wild, intact salmon populations that are still running our river systems. And the biggest threats that they face on the Rogue are a number of small diversions, failed culverts, and small dams that need to come out in the next 3 to 5 years. And that process is underway, and it's occurring through the collaborative efforts that are happening with watershed councils that are co-designing projects to remove the barriers to fish migration. And in order to meet the water demands of agriculture and landowners, there have been some pretty innovative methods that have been used where in-stream pumps are put into the river, the dams or the small diversions are taken out, and it's actually a net savings to the landowner in terms of less water loss than having a diversion in place. It's good for the fish, it's good for the landowners, and we're seeing more of those proactive solutions that are going to benefit salmon populations on the Rogue in the long run. And the key factor for salmon to weather climate change problems is to have access to refugia. And the more we block salmon migrations, the more we prevent those populations from getting further up into the watershed where they can find cooler water, better watershed conditions, and deal with the coming climate storm. Now, on the Klamath system, it's been a very different situation. There are 4 major dams on the main stem of the Klamath that are all up for relicensing now with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. There are a number of different proposals on the table to remove some or all of those dams because they currently block salmon migration from getting into the upper Klamath Basin, which they historically occurred. And the Klamath was one of the primary fish-producing streams in the lower United States until those dams were put in place. So the National Center is part of a coalition that's working to get fish above those 4 dams into the upper basin and to restore the conditions for fish once they've made it up into the upper basin, so that they're not in hot water, but they're in some cool salmon-producing streams that can help recover the salmon populations over time.